Welcome back to another episode of Unlocking Her Code podcast. Thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery, growth, and transformation through powerful stories and empowering conversations. My name is Lourdes, and I'm here with TV.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, TV. How are you feeling?
Good.
Yeah.
Excited about part 2 of this new episode.
I know. We are in part 2. Part 1 was healing the inner boss bitch. And this is part 2 of that one. And it was such a good conversation. I feel like there's like so much that we can dive into. And I think that we struggled with this a little bit here. I think TV was like in that feminine energy was trying to come out of her, and she was like, no, trying to suppress it. But we're learning. We're always learning along the way. I feel like while we're talking, don't you just feel like you catch yourself saying something and you're like, oh my God, yes. Like, how much self-awareness are we bringing and like learning just by listening to, like, me listening to you and, us listening to ourselves again. And it's just been one of those things where I feel like the at least the boss bitch in me sometimes still wants to come out, And then I'm just like, girl, you need to sit down, because I don't need you right now.
Yeah, she wants to very much take control, but now we're able to see her. Now we know.
Yeah.
We recognize her pattern, which is a gift. And for me, this topic is not an easy one. For me, there's still a lot of triggers within this area because I definitely have always been on my masculine energy. I've had a program of this energy since I was very young. And now that I've gave myself permission to step into the feminine, to be in this energy, sometimes I still struggle, like I get triggered by it, or I feel uncomfortable just going into this. And I very much feel that even right now as I'm speaking, I feel like very much triggered around it, which is great.
Yeah.
Because when we're triggered, it's such an opportunity for growth. And I'm grateful, but it definitely, as you're going through a trigger, it doesn't feel like the greatest.
Yeah. I'm sure. No, I totally get it. In the part 1, I shared a quote that I felt was perfect, and I found another one which I think it's good, and I definitely goes with what we're talking about. And it says, the strongest women are those who can shed. No, that was the first one, huh? That was the first one. The first one, which I'll repeat it. The strongest women are those who can shed.
Did you say those who can shit?
Well, if you can shit, girl, that's amazing. Because sometimes, that's always an issue. So no, not those who can shed.
Okay.
But the strongest women are those who can shed their armor and still stand strong. So that was the first one, right, that we shared in part 1. But the quote that is that resonates for this episode is, the most powerful thing about a woman is not her strength, but her ability to show vulnerability. So, how hard is that when you're in that boss bitch mentality to be vulnerable, to say, I can't do this by myself. I do need help. That did hurt. To show compassion, to show emotions, like to show all of that. Like we want to just like be like, nah, I'm good. I don't need that. That didn't bother me,
Yeah, for sure. Because I feel that at that moment, at least for me, I truly believe that my strength was my power.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel that now, even if I could go back to that place or talk to that version of myself, I just wish I could tell her, no, it's not your strength that gives you the power. It's you being able to be vulnerable. That is your power.
Yeah.
And, but we all have to go through the journey to discover that part, to actually arrive to that place.
Yeah, I definitely believe that. It's like being vulnerable is not a weakness, and it is seen that way, and it needs to be, that mentality needs to change, you know? I think for a long time, I being vulnerable for me was like, I felt like it was gonna strip me naked if I'd showed that, you know? And, you know, like one of the things that we thought of and we want to share in this episode is like the feminine energy, and a little bit about like what is it and what are some characteristics of it, in some ways that you can actually activate it. So, you know, it is a spiritual force that has traits, like, and these traits are compassion, empathy, introspection, creativity, good communication skills, high self-esteem, like being intuitive. The feminine energy is super intuitive and empathetic. Feminine energy is fluid, emotional, passionate. It flows, you know? Being receptive, like the feminine energy is receptive and it craves to be seen, craves to be admired and appreciated. And super loving, right? It's intelligent, loving. It contains qualities of compassion, emotion, empathy. And it's something that everybody needs it, right? We need a mix of both the masculine and the feminine. But I feel like when we're so much in our masculine energy, like we forget about everything else. And, you know, some ways that we can definitely activate it is expressing gratitude every day, surrounding yourself with people who inspire you, who support you, who are there for you, you being open to your emotions, practicing. Oh, this is a good one. Practicing to receive compliments. I'm like, that's crazy, huh? Like receive compliments. What? I know that was crazy. Focusing your energy inward, right? Staying positive. So all those things, it's hard. Sometimes, you know, we mentioned in the first episode, how everything that when I was in that mentality, it was like everybody else's fault. It was so hard to stay positive and look inward. It was kind of like, you know, it was kind of one of those things where you just said like, you know, everybody's against me, or nobody's here to help me. But then again, I didn't really accept anybody's help, or I didn't really say that I needed help. And man, I remember a lot of the time when I was in that mentality, like not even knowing whether I had to choose between whether I pump gas, you know, whether I had money, right? I only had enough money to either pump gas or buy groceries for my son, or I would take my son to go buy food. And I only had enough for him, right? And so then I'd let him buy whatever he wanted, and I would be like, oh, we're gonna go on a date or whatever, and struggling, and like, because I only had money like to pay my rent and my car payment, like the things that I needed. But then like everything else was like, but I never ever showed that. Like I never asked for help. I never said I need something. And then I would always say, oh, I don't need no one around me. I don't need man. I don't need, you know, none of that stuff. But I was so mad that I was like mad at the whole world for, I guess, like in hindsight, for that nobody showed me their support during that time. But then how would they? You know what I mean? Like I did that to myself. Mm-hmm. So it's like suffering, self-inflicted suffering, caused my own suffering.
Yeah, definitely. I feel that when we are in that part of our life, a lot of the suffering is self-inflicted, for sure. It's just that we don't see it. We don't recognize the pattern. Mm-hmm. Because this is all this is. Being in the masculine energy, operating from the masculine energy, and being on the hyper-independent mentality and that boss bitch mentality is a pattern. Now, the deeper question is, where did I learn the pattern? Why am I operating from this place? Like, how does it serve me to stay in this? And is it serving me, mm-hmm. right? So when we arrive to this place of, okay, well, now I see the pattern, right? After hearing maybe this episode or after reading a book, I came to the conclusion that I've been operating from the masculine energy, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Now, how do we come back home?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What has that look like for you to begin your journey of coming back home?
So, man, I feel that it was, to me, when I realized when I realized eye operating there is definitely really, again, taking it back to last year when I had to go out on leave from at my work. I went out on leave because I just had like a mental breakdown at work. And it was, again, I didn't realize what was happening to me at that time. And I just felt it was like just work related, I was like, this is just work related, but it's far more than just work related, like way more. And at that time already, I had reached a breaking point. Like my mind, body, soul, everything was like, that's it. Enough is enough. You're not going to do this to yourself anymore. And so then I went on leave for a while, right? I couldn't come out of that dark space that I was in. So I realized that every time that I was getting ready to go back to work, I would start falling apart again. That's the moment I knew that, like, felt like I was getting more stable, but the moment I knew I was getting closer to my return date, oh my God, I'd start breaking down again, like physically sick, emotionally, mentally sick, and so then I started thinking, okay, I need to make the decision. I think that I need to quit my job. But that was like, and I remember reaching out to you and I was going to be crying. I'm like, I'm going to have to quit my job. Like it's driving me crazy. Like it's, I don't think I can go back anymore. And you would say like, well then quit, And so everybody would say like, why are you going to go back? Just quit. Like that's crazy. That decision for me was one of the hardest decisions. I sat on that decision for so long. I didn't sleep. It gave me so much anxiety. I remember just crying, and you would tell me like, what is it? What are you so afraid of? And I said, my boss bitch mentality was like, bitch, hold on. Like, you're not going to quit. If you quit, like, what's going to happen to us? What do you mean? You're independent in this job. You are self-sufficient in this job. You can, if your marriage fails and you need to get a divorce, you can keep your house. You can pay all the bills. You can do everything. You don't need anybody. You don't need anything in this job. Like, you're perfectly fine here. You don't need anyone, remember? That was like constantly hitting me. And so I remember telling you like, well, what am I going to do? Like and you're like, Lou, no, you don't. Like that's your masculine energy telling you that you need to stay there, but you don't need to, you need to surrender and say, I can't do this anymore. So then I was like, I remember a few years back before that you had given me a book, and I talked about the book in the first episode of Healing the Inner Boss Bitch. And I mentioned a book that you gave me, and it's called You Are the Goddess, by Sophie Bashford. And when you first gave me the book, I remember like kind of going through it, reading it, but I wasn't capturing what it was telling me. Like it just wasn't sticking in my brain, right? So I remember I put it away. Okay, well, when I was going through this transition of this journey of when I started like with everything, I remember just wanting to pick it up. I started reading it, and every single word was just like, bam, hitting me, right? And it's just about reminder of who you are as a woman, as a female. You are a goddess. You are a female. Like, embrace your feminine energy. And I was reading it, and I was like, I don't embrace any of these things. This is crazy. Like, none of this is me. I am so far into my masculine energy. I'm so far of like wanting to do the logical thinking all the time. And then, I don't show the emotions. I don't show that I need help. I'm not vulnerable. I'm not any of this stuff. And that's when I started realizing it and learning. And then I fell in love with it. I was like, this is beautiful. Like, how do I not want to be feminine? This is stupid. Like, I want to be feminine. I want to like just like bathe myself in it. And then like I want my kids, my daughters to feel the same way. I want my siblings to feel the same way. And I remember telling you, I'm reading the book and I love every single aspect of it. And you said something like, well, yeah, because now it's calling you to actually like read it. You couldn't read it before and understand it because you were not in that space. You were not ready, Mm-hmm. And so, I love it. If anyone, even if it's not this book, but pick up something up that has to do with the feminine energy, learn it, understand it, see what resonates with you, see what you're doing, what you're not doing. and then just absorb it and take it in and start practicing these things. And that's when it started for me, like realizing that I was trying to hold on to something that was not me. It was so far into the masculine energy, and it was dragging me down. It was exhausting me because I was tired, TV. I was exhausted of feeling like I had to be the one and I didn't need anybody else. At that point, I was like, I need everybody. Everybody fucking help me. I'm drowning. Everyone, I need it, you know? And then breaking free from that. And I want to say, like, the first time I think I mentioned in the last episode, but I mentioned like showing a video and just being extremely vulnerable in my video when I posted to my Instagram and saying like I was going through all the stuff that I was going through. That was like the most scariest thing. But after like saying all of that and putting it out there and saying this is what I'm going through, and yes, like I'm not embarrassed, I'm not scared, I'm not anything, like this is just it. There's the outpouring of love that I received from there, and people saying like it was the crazy, everyone, you're so strong for doing this, you're so strong, you're so strong. It's like how now, if in hindsight, I'm like, damn, that is strength right there, you know, being vulnerable and telling people I need help, I'm not okay, you know. So yes, how is vulnerability not strength? That's, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, and you know that where do we even get that message from, right? Where do we even pick up that message that vulnerability is not a strength? That's the biggest, one of the biggest questions that I had to answer myself as I was going through the journey, right? Is that it's all programming. Mm-hmm. It's all coming from either society, you know, what we watch on TV, what we're exposed to, other people's beliefs, right? And that's where that message is coming from, but it's not necessarily our own truth. Yeah. Right? Because look at all the gifts that vulnerability has gave you, for example.
Yeah.
Right? And even in my own journey as well, opening to that energy has been one of the most biggest gifts in my life. It's not, for me, it's been a difficult one to open to. I mean, even till this day, I have days that are good and I have days that I struggle with it a little bit more, but that I'm open. And that's the most important thing, that my intention is set at I am open.
Yeah.
Whether we have days where we struggle or not, the intention is what remains, mm-hmm. which was powerful. So to begin embarking in this journey, one of the most important things is just setting that intention. That's really all it takes.
Yeah.
My intention is to begin my self-discovery journey of my feminine energy.
Yes.
And the moment you just pour that out to the universe takes care of everything else. Whether you get a message from a friend, it comes through a book, mm-hmm. it comes through a podcast, however is it that message in your journey begins with, that's unique to you. Mm-hmm. Everybody embarks their journey through their own specific way.
Yeah.
So, there's so much power in being vulnerable and allowing that energy to just guide you back home.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally get it. And I feel like for me, it's been easier to show all this and show like my true emotions. I feel like I always come with just like, oh, this is what's happening to me, and I'll just like word vomit, everything just comes out. And then somehow along the way I just became extremely transparent, and I don't like shy away from anything, and I'm just like, oh, it doesn't, you know. And I feel more genuine connections with people at that point, because I'm not trying to like hide anything or like trying to lie or trying to put up a front or anything, you know. So that's been extremely helpful. But I do feel that for you, that's something that you've always struggled with, to really show, like, what are you going through? You know, I feel like every time that we're talking, it's more like me, just, again, like, just, I just told you everything. And then you're like, okay, have you thought of this? And I'm just like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, okay, bye, you know? But then I'm always thinking like, well, what about Phoebe? Like, damn, she's just like, you know? And so, but it's true. You just don't, you know?
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I mean, of course, it's still something that I'm very much working through, but this comes from directly from childhood, being the oldest daughter in the family. It is a total different way of living, way of seeing life. I mean, I always feel so much compassion for the oldest daughters in the family. We had to be all for the family. So imagine being under that program your whole life and then just one day deciding I'm no longer going to be on that program. So it's just like everything in you has to change. Everything. The way you think, the way you respond to things, the way you're programmed, your DNA, your cells, your neural paths in your mind. It's all new. Everything has to be new. And of course, there's always going to be that part of me that still fights in a way, that still wants to keep me protected.
Yeah.
It's a part. It's what it is. It's a part within me that's still very much there, just in case. She's like, I'm here just in case you need me, And she's very active.
Yeah.
And that part's still very active.
Do you think that Frankie still sees that?
I believe he does.
Yeah.
He does, but now what's beautiful about it is that he doesn't take it as an attack to himself. Like, he doesn't take it to where it's like, it's me.
Yeah.
No. We've had very deep conversations. Like, I mean, me and him have gone deep, deep, deep.
Yeah.
Through this journey. So he knows exactly where this is born from. So when he does see her, he's able to understand and have compassion for this part of me. He has more compassion for that part of me than I have for that part. Because me, I could just be like, oh, here, I did it again. I shouldn't have done that. And I go into this mind, right? By him, he just holds compassion and he just says, it's okay. Like, I understand. Or even if he doesn't say anything, just by him giving me this space to be or to show up in the way I'm showing up in that moment. That's all I need in that moment, right? Because I will do the inner work myself. Yeah. I could act out from that place right now. And in the next hour, I will sit down with myself and now start self-reflecting. Yeah. And now in the next day, I'll continue to ask myself, what happened? Like, where did this come from? And if I have to ask, ask for an apology, I do it. Which is big now because that's not something I used to do before ever.
Like, you wouldn't apologize for your actions.
No, this is who I am and that's it.
Or your reaction.
Now, my ego doesn't have control of that, which is huge now, right? Now I can come in and say, whether it's in an hour or 2 hours or the next day, but I will say, I'm sorry. This is what I was going through. I was going through something. It's got nothing to do with you. I was navigating a trigger, or I was navigating an emotion, or whatever it was, right? So I'm very good at communicating that to him now, so that he doesn't take it as it's me. Yeah. But he's been able to outgrow that stage, and now he knows it's got nothing to do with him. Yeah,
and that's good. He understands where it comes from.
Yeah, which is a big game changer, because that's too much weight for somebody to carry. I feel that when a partner carries that weight for your wounds and your pain, oh man, that's really, really painful for the man, and then later on for the woman, once she's able to see, like, oh my God, I inflicted all this pain. Because when I was able to see all the pain I had put him through, it was very hard. Like, it took months for me to like really shake off like what I had, the energy I had poured out because I was wounded. Right now I have compassion for her, and I'm able to just tell myself, you didn't know any better. And if you don't know any better, you cannot do better. Now that I know better, I do better, right? But it doesn't mean we're going to be 100% perfect every moment. Our emotions will take over. The ego will win sometimes, and that's okay. Because if it did win, right? Let's say the ego did win or the masculine energy did win. That means that there's an opportunity for growth for me in that moment. And that's why I manifested that moment, so that I could reflect and then grow from that and learn from that.
Yep. Oh yeah. I mean, I think now just kind of learning, now that we're very self-aware of what it is, like what it means to us, or the moment of impact of where like, okay, this is where I realize what I've been doing this whole time. And so now I need to start to heal that part of me, you know, like how do you feel like, like how does one even start that? Like, what is the biggest thing that you've given? Like, I mean, how did you start that?
Ooh, yeah. I began, one, suffering took me there. Great internal suffering was what led me there. Like, it was just hitting rock bottom and being like, this is not who I want to be. Looking at myself in the mirror and saying, I don't feel good. I don't like my actions. I don't like how I'm treating my partner. I don't like how I'm treating my kids. And this makes me emotional.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that this has always been something that has been always like one of those most impactful things for you. Because like I mentioned, I feel like it's always been harder for you to share and to talk about, to just be vulnerable and let people in. Since I've known you, you've always been the person that takes control, needs the control, has been the person that is you think with you've always been extremely emotional but extremely logical at the same time, like you know, and you've always just been that person, like you're the alpha, you're the leader, people follow you, people do, where's Stevie, she wants to go here, okay, we're gonna go this, if Stevie wants this, okay, we're gonna go do that, and no one questioned that ever. And I do feel like for a long time it was us on survival mode. It was what kept us alive. So we honor that part of ourselves. We don't hate her. We're not saying, you know, it's stupid or it's ridiculous to be in that mentality. Well, that's not what we're saying. For us, she saved us. Like that part of ourselves, it saved us. So, but I do know how hard it is for you to open up in that.
Yeah, and the reason it makes me emotional is because I could feel her pain.
Yeah.
That's what makes me like shed tears right now, is that I could feel her very deeply right now. And it makes me emotional to like feel her pain all over again, you know,
because you're exposing her.
Because I'm exposing her, because I'm being vulnerable yet again, right? And it's not something that that I'm used to a lot, and once again, because I've always been a leader, I've always been the one that supports others, so I don't know how to, like, you know, step into a different role other than who I've always been, right? But to begin with this journey, I just gave myself permission. That was the first thing. Yeah, I gave myself permission. I had to use lots of mantras because I didn't feel safe doing it. And if you can't feel, this is huge. This is like one of the biggest takeaways. If you cannot set a ground of safety for your feminine energy, she will not come out. There's no way, because she doesn't feel safe. If you are able to have a safe container for her, you'll see her start coming out, right? So first I gave myself permission, and I created mantras. One that I would use all the time is, you are safe. It's okay. It's okay now. Like, keep reassuring her that it's safe for her to come out. Yeah. Right. And the second one was having awareness of where I am in my own journey, and having compassion and respect for where I am, because obviously it's like a newborn. You just opened your eyes to the truth, and whoa, sometimes that could be very challenging and painful, because not only are you going to start seeing the truth, but you're going to see the damage that you've also done, the people that you've hurt, your children, your partner, the most important people of your life. You're going to see what you've done. And
that's
that
a hard
is
pill to
so
swallow.
painful. I mean, it continues to hurt. It till this day, it still hurts.
Yeah.
But now I'm able to reassure her that, yes, she went through that, but that's not who she is anymore,
Yeah.
right? That now she has a choice, that now she could come from a more loving energy, and that helps me every single day keep going. Because if I go down that rabbit hole of, but I did this, but I did that, and I acted from this place and that, I'm just gonna put myself in a place of disempowerment, right? And it's very painful to do that. Like I said, another thing that you can do is just be intentional. For example, one of my intentions when I began this journey was to heal the masculine wound, because I carried a very heavy masculine wound. So one of my intentions was to heal that energy. And because my intention was to heal the masculine, that opened my heart and led me on this journey. Right. And again, creating the safety container is big. Affirmations, mantra. Fear will come up. Fear will come up during this process because it's an unfamiliar territory. And this is where your mantras are going to help you, right? Like, I am safe, or whatever mantra you decide to use for yourself. This is when you need to use those. And that's how I began the journey. I also had a book as well. I mean, everything just led me here. Everything that I was doing to heal, or any process that I was using, it kept leading me to this place. Yeah. To the feminine energy, back home. Yeah. So there's so many paths that somebody can take. The one you choose is especially for you. Yeah. Whatever that is for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's so awesome. I feel I'm so happy that you went through that, because I know how painful that was. You know, I know that it comes with like guilt, right, and shame. Like, I can't believe I did these things, you know. And you go back and you look, and then, but like, we have to give ourselves more grace in that, and we have to be okay with saying like, yeah, we did that, you know. I know, and yeah, like you said, going back and apologizing and saying, I did that same thing too with my kids. You know, I you know, especially with my son, I sat down with him and I told him like, you know, I'm sorry, son. Like, I raised you completely different than I'm raising the girls, because I was learning. I was surviving. I was probably not, you know, not where, obviously in hindsight, not where not where I wish I was, but, you know. And so I told him, I know that you see a whole different mom now that you got, you know. But I told him, like, and I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry for anything that you feel towards me because of that. But, you know, I told him, like, it's a different mom. Like, I'm a different mom, and I want you to see that. I want you to know that. More him, right? And the girls, I'm super, super, it's just different. You know, with the girls, obviously like learning so much more, but with my son, he's going to be 18 years old already. So yeah, me and him, we went through a lot together. And so, and he knows now, and I'll send him messages, like little things on his phone and stuff like that. So he knows where I'm coming from. And I'm hoping that, you know, that he understands that, because that's probably one of the most painful things. And my husband too. And even, you know, I tell him, like, you know, I'm trying to let him, you know, it's hard, right? Because again, she wants to come out and she wants to give all the opinions, and she wants to be like, oh no, this and this and that. And sometimes it's all out of pride. It's not even, there's even, you know, it's just letting go of that control and saying like, hey, but I am really just trying to stay in my my lane and letting him do his thing. And it's just so many things. I think, like, I've even spoken to my ex-husband, and I've told him I was sorry for a lot of things, and you know, that I did, and wish things were different as a different person. You know, I think the outcome that we're in now, like, we're very happy where we both are. But it just, like, you know, if I was a shitty person, you know, I apologize for that. And so there's a lot of that going on. I think I even took the time one time to apologize to my younger sister for not being the sister that she needed me to be at the time, because I could see all of that, I could see all those things. But for a long time, all of that came with a lot of guilt and shame, and I couldn't get past that point. Once you're aware of once you're aware and you can see yourself, you're like, holy shit, like I did some fucked up stuff, and then you want to go and apologize, but then you sit in that ugly, like, oh my God, and now I'm just like, you know what, I'm giving myself grace and saying it's okay, you didn't know any better. It's what you knew. It served you at the moment. It served me at the moment, and it gave me some sort of purpose. And I was on survival mode, and I did that. And if I knew then what I know now, obviously I would not have done or reacted or made those decisions. But so the shame and the guilt were for a long time, like killing me. And I've learned to be okay with that and tell myself, like, it's all right, So like I said, I've been saying it for a while. It's not anything against the boss bitch. She was on survival mode, and I'm forever thankful for keeping me alive throughout that time. But she could sit down now. I'm like, girl, take a seat. Yeah. Put your feet up. Yeah. Relax, Yeah. It's okay. We don't need to stay there, Yeah. And we know we can do things. We know we're capable of so much shit. We know that already. Mm-hmm. I can do everything a man can do. I know that already. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody anymore. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not.
And it's so crucial. Like what you just said is so important. Like she could just relax now, mm-hmm. right? So if you can think of her as an energy that lives within you, assign her a different job.
Yeah.
Or ask her, what would you like to know? What would you like to do now? Right? And I remember asking that part of myself, that question. And she just said, I just want to relax and just like do what I want to do, like not worry about anything. Allowing her and giving her the permission to just be who she was meant to be all along. Mm-hmm. Yes, this energy can help you in many different situations in your life, right? Because not only she isn't just in your life to hurt you. Mm-hmm. She's also here to teach you about your strengths, mm-hmm. because she's like, what I was able to tell is that, man, this energy in me, yes, she did all of this, which is the shadow mm-hmm. part, the shadow aspect of her, but there's also an aspect of light, right? She's smart, mm-hmm. she's a leader, mm-hmm. she does good, when she's in a balanced energy, she could bring so much good to the world, mm-hmm. right? So it's just owning both aspects. But I can't just own the light of her. No. I have to also honor the shadow, which is the darkness of her, and embody both parts so that this energy can now serve me moving forward, mm-hmm. right? So treating it as an energy. Some of the things I've done is I've journaled to her. I've talked to her, and I've just had conversations with her of how grateful I am that she taught me so much about myself. I've also been able to forgive myself for all the things that I've done because I was in the energy. And I have a little part of my journal that I wrote when I was writing to her, mm-hmm. that I like to read. And this was like me just journaling to her and kind of having like a conversation. And I wrote, I forgive myself for all these years of suffering under the hyper independence, of controlling, of disempowerment. I forgive myself for believing I was alone and that I had to rescue myself. The truth is that I don't have to ever do anything on my own. I simply have to allow the universe, creator, to take care of me. And this is what I choose to do moving forward. right? I don't have to take care of anyone or anything, right? I don't have to continue to disempowер myself in this way, because that's what I was doing. I was disempowering myself by staying in this mentality. It was no longer serving me. If it had a purpose at one point, good, but now it doesn't. Now it doesn't serve me to stay in this mentality from this point of view. Now what serves me is to allow the light aspect of her merge the dark and then serve from an empowered place, right? And it's how I see it now.
Yeah, I love that, because it's true. It's surrendering and allowing to be taken care of, allowing that. And like a lot of the, I think the men think like, oh, when they hear boss bitch, it's always like man hating man. And I think at some point it does get to that point. Like, we're not gonna lie, it does get to that point, right? Because there's a lot of like inflicted trauma from the male perspective, whether it was our dad or from like a young, when your dad or dad somehow played a role in that, right? Or then because we carry that trauma, then we get older, because of that trauma, we fall into relationships because we have that trauma, right, from our childhood. So then we go into these relationships expecting something that we didn't get as a child. So then we fall into like a even worse relationship, and then we hang on to those too, and then they cause more trauma, and so now we're just hating men in general, right? It happened to me, that's for sure. I know I was looking for, again, I was alone. I wanted to be embraced, I wanted to be loved, I wanted to be part of a family, and so I looked for it in the wrong relationships at a very young age. As a teenager, I was in an extremely abusive relationship, physically abusive, emotionally, mentally, everything, and I stayed there because I wanted to build a family that I thought at the time that I didn't get when I was young, because I felt alone all the time, not listened to, not cared for. So I always imagined what a family should look like, and I wanted to recreate that. And he was definitely not the person to do it with, but he was the closest I could get to something like that. So I stayed in that for years. And it wasn't my ex-husband, that's for sure. I was in high school at that time, just to let everyone know. But it was an extremely abusive relationship, and from there, I feel like I just kept going into these relationships, wanting that family, and I did get that family with Greg, right? Like I did get that, and so I think one of the things that I mourned and I grieved a lot when Greg and I got divorced was the family aspect that I didn't have when I was a kid, and so I mourned that. No offense to Greg, but I used to be like, how can I keep the family but not keep Greg? Because I wanted that, but now he's a part of my life. He's a part of my family, and I have the family, and I have Greg, and my son is happy, and we're both happy, and we're all happy, right? So, but anyways, what I'm trying to say is, how do we, how we inflict all those, and then it becomes into like, well, we hate men type of thing, right?
Yeah.
It comes from these past traumas. It's not, and this is not what we're trying to say. What we're trying to say is, again, going back to like our husbands now, embracing what they bring to the table, respecting what he brings to the table, allowing him to bring whatever he needs to bring to the table, giving him his platform, giving him his space, and saying like, yes, you are the man in this house, and I'm the woman in this house, but together we create an amazing team. You don't hold more power over me. I don't hold more power over you. We both come in. We both have these amazing energies, and let's bring them together. So it's like respecting and embracing and allowing them both. Not one is over the other.
No, never. That's one of the ways, that honoring both energies, the masculine and the feminine, could be life-changing for your relationship in general. If you are able to embrace both energies in your life, I mean, imagine what your relationship could look like. It's like heaven on earth, right? But until there's that surrender and there's that understanding and that honor of both energies, that can't happen, right? So it's why we bring this message to our listeners that if you are somebody that's, going through a difficult part in your life, or where you feel like I'm having a difficulty in my marriage, we can't see eye to eye, divorce might be the answer. I mean, of course, I'm not saying to stay in abusive situations, but sometimes just looking at the energies. Look at the energy. What is it? Is it that there's too masculines in the energy? Is it that there's too feminine in the energy? Like, look at the energy aspect of the relationship. You will find a lot of the answers there. And that's like the advice I could give, because it was so life-changing for my relationship that I will never stop sharing this message, how important it is to look at the energetics of your relationship.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big time. I learned a lot, It's definitely taken me to some places that I am super open-minded right now to absolutely everything. And it's just been helpful. Self-reflecting it's not magic. It really isn't magic. It's not witchcraft. It's not some supernatural nothing. It's really looking within. There's just nothing else. There's nothing else, right? And checking yourself, like, what am I giving off? What power am I giving? What energy am I giving off? Am I trying to take too much control? Am I the one in the masculine energy and not my husband, not allowing him to do his thing, or vice versa? So that's a great advice to give to someone. And I think, like, for maybe a female that's in, maybe not in a relationship, or in a relationship, or maybe she's going through like or she's just alone, single, whatever the case might be, right? And she's in that masculine energy, and that's that boss bitch mentality, and this is who I am, this is what I am, and I don't need nobody. I think, like, the best thing that I would probably say to her, it's okay to be vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't suppress that part of you, that part of yourself. Don't suppress your feminine energy. Just don't put her in a box and lock her away. It's gonna cause you more harm down the road.
For sure. I agree 100%. Your vulnerability is your greatest strength, not the other way around.
Exactly.
And that's it's just such an important topic, and I'm so happy we had a chance to share it with you all. I hope that you take one or two things out of this. Great. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us in this inner journey that is not only for the listeners, but also for us, right? Because as we're talking, oh my God, we are going through our own inner journey as we're sharing this, and we are being asked to be vulnerable as we're speaking.
Yes, right now. Yep.
So it's powerful to be able to share this with you all.
Yeah, I feel like very like, a weight has been lifted off my shoulder. It feels so good. I'm so happy we're able to share this. And I always feel like it's going to be a topic that's always going to come up because it's big, right? And maybe we can definitely touch upon, the masculine and the feminine energy. I know right now I was very about the boss bitch mentality, right? But really, like, what do they mean? What does they stand for? Like, so you can understand your spouse or the male energy. It doesn't even have to be your spouse or your partner or whatever, but you have a dad, you have brothers, siblings, friends, whatever, bosses, whatever. You can understand where they come from. Same for the women, we can understand where they come from. So that's definitely an episode that we can talk about, and you guys can understand that more. Or, I highly invite you guys to, pick up a book about feminine energy, and then learn it, embrace it, and then start looking within and saying, okay, I do this, or I don't do this. I suppress this part of it, you know. Understand that those are the things that we don't suppress. Don't lock yourself up, because every single part of your femininity needs to be out, you know.
Yeah. And before we even close this up, I also want to address the ladies that are single really quick. So to the ladies that are single and are struggling to find a partner, right? This is also very much for you. If you're struggling to find a partner to manifest that man that of your dreams, look at the energetics. Where are you manifesting from? Are you manifesting from your feminine energy? Or are you manifesting from the masculine, right? Because if you're trying to manifest the man of your dreams who is masculine, more often than not, that masculine is not looking for another masculine.
Yeah, exactly.
So look at the energetics. We invite you to do the work. Ask yourself those deep questions. Where am I standing at right now? Pick up a book. Listen to more podcasts. Just go on that very powerful journey. We can go on and on with this topic for the single ladies out there, but this is I felt very called to share this as well for all the single ladies. And
that's huge. It's huge. You can't be putting off that masculine energy and then expecting a masculine man to come save you.
No,
not at all whatsoever. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. So, but yes, thank you guys so much for joining us on this one. It was a two-part episode, and it was a good one. And I just, I can't wait to have get the feedback. Please give us feedback. Send us a message on Instagram. You can find us on Unlocking Her Code podcast. You can find me. I'm Lou, and you can find me at The Plug by Revive. And TV is...
You can find me on Instagram under TV Side Coaching Center. And we're open to feedback. We can't wait to see you all on the next episode. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.